Finish the Maimer. Okay. Torah or Shmeis Nun Dalid, first column. We're going to start the paragraph Achdei, even though we learned a few lines. Okay, so now the Rebbe is saying like this: Achdei Sheyom Shebechinas Yaakov Yisrael Anal. In order to bring down, like he says, Aboim Yasher Shakir, the planting and the flourishing is Yaakov Dafka the Neshama in the body, in the ground, and the whole thing that he said, the Maila of elevating the world and so on. So he says, in order for that to happen, you need the davening you need the level of Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov. Why? Ketfilas of his tiknum, because davening was instituted by the Avis. This we learned already. To reveal the level of Hashem from the concealed level to the revealed level, as it's known. But in order to have that elokus coming down, it needs to be the level of meridus, the bitterness, like we learned last night in Tanya also. The bitterness of the realization that we're very far from elokus. But not chas v'shom to get depressed from it, but on the contrary, to stimulate the person of how much more he could do to become even more connected. Like the expression Chazal, Mayim Tachtein Beichin, the lower waters are crying that we also want to be in the presence of Hashem. The Medrash says that on the second day of creation, Hashem made the heavens that split between the higher waters and the lower waters. Right? Between the water on top of the heaven and the water below the heaven. So the Medrash says that the lower waters were crying, we also want to be before Hashem. You split us, the higher waters are all the way up there, and so to speak, spiritually speaking, in the presence of Hashem. And now you made the lower waters down here, we're far, we also want to be close to Hashem. So here the Alter Rebbe is explaining, what does that mean? That the lower waters, there's this attitude by the Jew, we also want to be close to Hashem. So therefore, by the way, the Medrash says, so Hashem, to appease the lower waters, said, I'll give you the mitzvah of Simchas Beis HaSha'eva. We're going to draw the water from the lower wells, from the lower water, and that's going to be the ultimate level of Simcha. So Hashem gave the opportunity, but what you see here, two interesting things. Number one, the fact that you're down, you have to cry, I want to be higher. Don't say, okay, Hashem made me down, that's it, I'm down here. And no, a Jew has to scream, we also want to be there. With this one, when you meditate into the fact, Baruch Sha'amar, Hashem said, and the world came into existence. That means in the Savo, Kol Ha'elam is all the worlds, the universe, not only the universe, all the spiritual universes, besides the physical universes, were created with one word from Hashem's mouth. The Gemara says it's worthy to go through all the punishment of Gehenna to come to Gan Eden. Like it says by our Achad, motive the Ladaini is better that he gets judged in Gehenna. The last Alama the Asa, the Esnanimi Ziva Shechina. That's only a ray of the Shechina. When you do a mitzvah, you connect to the essence of Hashem, not the ray of the Shechina. By days and through this, Yismar Menanav Shema'ed. His soul will become extremely embittered. But from the distance of Hashem, that he's ultimately far from Hashem. And that itself, that the person feels far from Hashem, that longing, the longing that he's far from Hashem, he wants to feel Elokus, that itself is a stimulation to make him want to become closer to Hashem. So instead of the concept of depression, the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, on the contrary, it causes simcha. Like when the prince is imprisoned in captivity and he gets out, you can imagine the simcha of the king. The same thing, the neshama is Hashem's prince, the prince of Hashem, the son of Hashem, and now it gets caught in captivity of the body and of Shabbat, this world and everything else. So you can imagine the simcha. But he says, "Ach bechinas bechiyat kia beliboy misitrudo v'chadva kia beliba misitrudo." But the Zohar says the expression, from one side of the heart is crying, and the opposite side of the heart is simcha. In other words, it's not contradictory. You can have crying and simcha at the same time. And so how can you have happiness and sadness at the same time? He said one is the body, one is the neshama. He said, mitzad haguf, the person needs to feel that as far as the body is concerned, he's extremely far from Hashem. Ach mitzad neshamas Yisrael, but when it comes to the neshamas, yesh b'chinas simcha rabba. There's this tremendous simcha. L'smeach b'Hashem, to be joyous in Hashem, b'simcha shel mitzvah, by doing a mitzvah, which connects us to the essence of Hashem, which is infinitely greater even than the level of Sefer Kolam. Okay? So what's the Alter Rebbe saying in this mind so far? To so to speak, wrapping it up. The Alter Rebbe says, Aboim Yashir Shakiv, that where do we plant the seed? In the action, when you do action, in not, like you said, putting on tefillin in kavanah is not going to do anything. You need to have it in action. So when a person plants, like it says in the pasuk, you say it in Shir Hamalis, the benching, Hazeirim bedima, if you plant with tears, you're going to harvest with joy. Because when you realize that you work hard, and you plant, when you plant, it grows. When you plant, it grows. So the initial work is a lot of work. But then you realize what the accomplishment is. So he says, in the Aidei B'chinas Yaakov, which is the level of Rachmanus. You know, Avram is Ava, Yitzchak is Yira, or Chesed and Gvura, and Yaakov is Tiferet, the level of Rachamim. Through the level of pity, you're able to come to the level of simcha of mitzvah, which is the level of gilui. In other words, like this: you have love and fear. That's Avram and Yitzchak. He says, right, in order to have this level of Yaakov, you first need Avram and Yitzchak. Everything is a system. Everything works in a progress. First it had to be Avram, then it had to be Yitzchak, and then it had to be Yaakov. And that's the whole concept of davening, that's the whole concept of korbanos. You can have love and fear, but sometimes the love and fear of the person is not revealed. They just don't feel it. So that's where Yaakov Avinu comes in. Yaakov Avinu is the level of Rachmanis, pity. What a mercy. What does pity do? When you pity somebody, it awakens a love to that person or to that concept. And that's what the pasuk says. We said many times. The pasuk says, Yaakov asher padas Avram. Yaakov who redeemed Avram. Avram was never in jail when Yaakov was around, that Yaakov could redeem Avram. What does the pasuk mean when it says, Yaakov who redeemed Avram? So Chassidus explains, Avram is a level of love. Sometimes the love that a Jew possesses. Sometimes the love that a Jew possesses is in captivity. It needs to be redeemed. Where is it in captivity? Body, nefesh habamis, worldly enjoyments, all this stuff that puts into captivity this love of the nefesh elikis. We're in a body. We don't openly feel Hashem. We love the coffee better. L'chaim. Depends which one you use, with the sugar, without the sugar. But you love it better. So what happens? That Av of Hashem is in captivity. Comes the level of Yaakov and redeems it. What does redeeming from captivity mean? You take it out of captivity and you bring it back where it belongs. That's the level of Rachmanis. In other words, that's why right before Shema, the whole paragraph is about Avinu Avarachman Amrachim Rachim Noleinu, have pity on us, help us out. Because the whole davening, it says Avram and davening Yitzchak is the level of awaken, meditating into the greatness of Hashem to awaken a love and fear of Hashem. But what happens if you meditate and it still doesn't work because it's still in captivity? So then what do? You need the level of Yaakov. You need the level of Rachmanis. When you have pity on your soul, then look what happened to it. It's the prince himself of Hashem, the only child of the king. Every Jew is a ben Yochid, the only child of Hashem, and this child Nebuch is in captivity. So you have to have pity on this soul of ours that's in captivity, and that pity of Rachman and Rachem no Aleinu, have pity on us. That takes the neshama out of captivity, and then it's able to have Yahatas Hashem Elokecha. So that's what the Alter Rebbe is saying. That's why you need the Aved of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. So he's saying like this: you have in the same one part of the heart, in the same heart, joy is on one side of the heart, and bechia and crying is on the other side. How can you reconcile these two opposite levels? He says, which is the level of, no, I'm sorry, I skipped a line. How do you unify and unite these two levels who are opposite, in ultimate level of opposite? Bechia, bechedva, crying, and happiness, that's the level of Yaakov, the level of Rachmim. And then, by day bechinas Rachmanis Yochel bechinas Simcha Shemitza, which is the level of Gilui. So in other words, through the level of Rachmim, you can reveal and make from sadness to happiness. And that's what it says in the Pasuk, Hakel Kol Yaakov. Right? The Yaakov is the level of voice. Well, what did the Pasuk say when Yitzchak when they were coming and taking the brachas? So what did Yitzchak say? Hakel Kol Yaakov. The voice is the voice of Yaakov, but the hands are the hands of Yosef. Which means, by a Jew, the primary avodah is the voice. What does that mean? Well, K'mo Shel Hakel, what is a voice? It's Gilu Yahelem. It's the revelation of something concealed. When you make a sound, you can tell by the sound you're in a happy mood, sad mood, kvetching, complaining, whatever it is. Now, how does a voice come? A voice comes, Aidei Bechinas Ei Shemayim. It comes in the lungs, I don't know, whatever it is. It comes from water and fire. United creates a voice. Shem Dvarim Havchim. Ubechinas HaRuach, and the level of Ruach is the Mamutz Mechabri, is what connects it. Kamei Ken Lias Bechinas Gilui Maisa Mitzvahs Lenmata. To reveal the concept of mitzvahs down here, the level of Yaakov the Chinas Rachmanis. And therefore, the level of Yaakov is called B'riach HaTichain, the middle pole. Shamavriach min HaKotza el HaKotza, from the highest level to the lowest level. L'chabir HaKroshim. To unite, I'll explain this in a second. To unite the boards, that they should not be separated from one another. Okay, we learned already many times. In the Mishkan, they had boards, right? The Kroshim. Tanames, Amma V'chetzi, right? The boards, one after another, lined up. Now, what held the boards together? So there was rings on top, rings on the bottom, okay, of each one. And then they had a pole, the badim, the brichim was called, that connected, so you put poles on top and poles at the bottom, and it connects the whole wall together. The problem is, when you came to the end, and now you have another wall coming this way, how did you connect this wall to this wall? Okay? So the Pasuk says, meaning like this. In the middle of the pole, there was a hole. Went straight through. Okay, each pole in the middle. So there was one ring on top, one ring at the bottom, that they had the poles. In addition to that, there was a ring in the middle, a hole in the middle, that went through the whole Mishkan around the corners. Then, the middle pole, B'riach HaTichin, the middle one, wooden pole, miraculously went through the whole middle, okay, through all the boards, and then when it came to the end, it made a left turn and went through the next bunch of kroshim, and then it made again a left turn. So the three walls were held together between with the B'riach HaTichin. By the way, some people in the Medrash say that was the stick that Moshe Rabbeinu used, and the matzah, and whatever, different opinions what it was. There was Yaakov's matzah, ki b'makli avartis yadeinu zeh. Different opinions what that B'riach HaTichin was. But bottom line was like this. Top one is Avram Avinu, Ava. Bottom one is Yira, Yitzchak. The level of Yaakov, but it only went one wall. It didn't connect all the poles together, all the boards together. The B'riach HaTichin is the level of Yaakov Avinu, Mavriach min hakotza lakotza. If you ever see the Kabbalah pictures, it's right, left, center, right, left, center. Now, right is Avram, Yitzchak is left, top, bottom. Then you have Yaakov is the middle, Teferes. Teferes is the level Titin Emes liYaakov. Yaakov is the level of Emes. What is the definition of Emes? Truth goes from the highest level through the middle all the way down to the bottom. Truth is eternal. If it's sometimes true, it's not true. Truth is eternity. Truth is Emes. Because if it's not Emes, then it's not truth. You're either pregnant or you're not. You can't be, maybe, in the middle. You either are or aren't. Emes, and that's why, like we learned many times, it says in Yerushalmi that the word Emes, Aleph, Mem, Saf, Aleph is the first letter of the Aleph base, Mem is the middle letter of the Aleph base, Saf is the last letter of the Aleph base. What's the definition of Emes? It goes from the top, through the middle, all the way to the bottom. That's the B'riach HaTichin, that's the level of Teferes, that goes, like he's saying over here, Mina Ksei Ha'elyon El Ksei HaTachton. What does the Yaakov Avinu do? Emes connects all the dots in the line. Because if it's Emes, it penetrates everything. We also learned while we're on the topic, off topic, that Emes, the numerical value of Emes is 441. Aleph Mem Saf is 400. So it's 441. 4, 4, and 1, Mitzvah Katan as it's called, equals 9. 4, 4, and 1 equals 9. Uniqueness of the number 9 is that any multiple of 9 equals 9. Like 2 times 9 is 18, 1 and 8 is 9, 27, 36, 45, 54. Any multiple of 9 equals 9. Which is the only number that is always Emes. Wherever it goes, it is what it is. It's always 9. That's the level of Yaakov Avinu. So in order to connect diversity, different poles, number one, on one side or many poles, and then different 3 walls, right? So that's the level of Yaakov Avinu that unites and combines all the different levels. It goes from the highest to the lowest. Therefore, it went through the middle all the way, all from beginning to end. Through the middle. That's the level of Yaakov. So now he says, this is where he's going back to the beginning of the Maimer. That's what it says, Aboim Yashir Shakif. Haino Shekdei Yekabel Yisrael Teira Mitzvahs. In order for the Jews to be able to receive Torah mitzvahs, which is the level of Yaakov and Yisrael, both the level of Yaakov and Yisrael. Li'ez panim bepanim diber. Hashem, that Hashem spoke to them face to face by Matan Torah. Bo mikedem Mitzrayim. They had to first come to Mitzrayim, which is the level of meridus, bitterness. B'chayim v'veinim, with the hard work, and then they were able to go out of Egypt and receive the Torah. And that's like we learned, in the progress, the chain of events of creation, from the beginning, when Hashem created the world for the sake of Mashiach, right, which is the whole concept of creation, so there's a progress, there's a procedure, okay? So in order for the Jews to get Matan Torah, they had to go through Mitzrayim. They had to go through Golus Mitzrayim, which was Vayimoraru es chayehem, simply means they embittered their life, but in the deeper sense, they had the level of merirus, the bitterness of feeling Golus. That had to be in order for the Jews to get to the level of Matan Torah. Because tanning the heights. And that's why it says, Kur ha-barzal mi Mitzrayim. Kur ha-barzal means the iron comb that used to, today everything's machines. But they used to take, how did they tan hides? To refine it. They used to take this massive iron comb and they would work over the hide, from the coarsest of the hide, to make it something, parchment leather, to make it refined. The Jews, in order to get Torah, had to become refined. How did they get refined? By being in Mitzrayim and all this difficulty, bitterness, slavery, that actually was the refinement that allowed the Jews to get Matan Torah panim b'panim. The Golus we're in now is the same thing, because the revelation of Mashiach is greater than the revelation of Matan Torah. So in order to come to the revelation of Mashiach, we have to be much longer, more difficult Golus than it was then, because the revelation is higher. So we need a greater refinement. Huh? Yeah, that's enough already. We got the point. You know what I mean? From Hashem, we got it. Okay. To be Yashish Yaakov Yotzes of Parvus, Ahoy b'Mitzrayim. That happened in Mitzrayim. K'dei lekabos HaTorah b'gashis and love of chitzenis. Now he says also now, v'gam ata b'golus l'shibir parnos. Now that we're in Golus and the problem of making a living, why is it? Not because Hashem's a meanie and he's cruel and he's, it is k'dei shala'os and yochel lekabel pnimis HaTorah, to get to Mashiach, which will reveal the secrets of Torah. Lias ayin ba'ayin yiru, to see eye to eye, to see alukus in a way of eye to eye physical. And that's why he says, Baracha Yaakov v'Yitzracha Yisrael. At the beginning of the Maimer, the pasuk says, your creator Yaakov and your forming of Yisrael. So he says Yaakov is lower than Yisrael. Why is Yaakov Bria and Yisrael Yetzira? Yes, that's the beginning of the Maimer. So he says that's the level of Yetzer Ardu B'Rei Cheshech. Why? Everything has Chaymer V'Tzura means matter and form. What's the level of creating the mass? That's the level of Yaakov. Yitzrach is the level of sort of a Gilu, and that's the level of Yisrael. In other words, Hashem created matter, and we have to form the matter. We have to form it. So the level of matter, which is lower, that's the level Yaakov, Baracha Yaakov. And then the Yidden's Aveda is to take the world and elevate it to Kedusha.
Before it says, Yaakov was Guf and Yisrael.
What? Yeah, that's the level of Guf. And Yisrael is the Aveda, spirituality.
Yeah, okay.
So therefore he says, Hashem created Yesh Me'ayin from the matter. The Gashmias. The Tachtainim. And the purpose of a Jew is to make the deed of a Tachtainim, to form it. That's what it says, Kol Shirasa Chaganemis Chachmasi. Chachmas Miskayamis in the level of flourishing has to be first Yiras Chet. Like it says, each Yiras Hashem, each Halo.